Hi, this is the first in a series of ongoing videos on HCL's new scripting language, VoltScript. We're calling this series VoltScript Ventures, and this video will give you a brief introduction into what is VoltScript, and we'll cover installing VoltScript on Windows. My name is Rocky Oliver, and I'm one of the lead researchers here in HCL Labs. I've been working in collaborative technologies for over 30 years, beginning with Lotus Development, then with IBM, and now with HCL. So, what is VoltScript? VoltScript began over 20 years ago as LotusScript, a scripting language created by Lotus Development for its various products, most notably Notes Domino. Uh, it's based on Visual Basic for Applications, or VBA. Uh, HCL extracted the LotusScript language engine from Notes Domino and has updated the language to bring it into the 21st century. But don't be fooled. While this may have begun from LotusScript, it has been changed and modernized quite a bit. The VoltScript engine runs VSS files or VoltScript source libraries. These are simply text files that contain your VoltScript code. VoltScript functionality can be extended through the use of VoltScript extensions or VSEs. These are compiled files written in C, C++ by either HCL or business partners. VoltScript is coded in an IDE, and our IDE of choice happens to be Visual Studio Code. VoltScript can be run standalone from the command line, or it can be deployed to a Voltimix Foundry server as middleware. When hosted on Foundry, it can be triggered by a REST service call. Now, let's cover some of the differences between LotusScript and VoltScript. So, as I mentioned earlier, LotusScript is a hosted language. It can only be run within one of the HCL products, most notably Notes Domino. Whereas VoltScript, as I mentioned earlier, is standalone engine, or it can be hosted on a Foundry server. LotusScript can be used to manipulate both front-end and back-end classes in the client or server, whereas on VoltScript, it's strictly back-end only. Event-driven LotusScript's an event-driven model with a global context. So you have events that you hook to, like UI events, things like that, like clicks and such. Whereas uh, VoltScript is completely procedural since it's strictly back-end. You call the code, it runs, and then it ends and returns a result set. LotusScript can access Notes and Domino class objects, whereas the way that you would access Domino data in VoltScript is via REST service calls through the Domino REST API. LotusScript's written in a proprietary IDE known as Domino Designer for Eclipse, whereas VoltScript is IDE independent, but it's pretty much optimized, and we've written extensions so that it could be written very easily in Visual Studio Code. Uh, LotusScript, whenever you save LotusScript, gets precompiled into bytecode, which is stored in CD records in a notes database. Whereas VoltScript is only compiled at runtime. It doesn't have a precompiler. It accesses the text file in the VSS file, compiles it, and then executes the code. Um, LotusScript relies on a proprietary text model called Limbix, the Lotus multi-byte character set, whereas in VoltScript, text data is accessed using UTF-8, which is a standard protocol. LotusScript works with data via notes objects, whereas in VoltScript, it's a little more generic. We use JSON objects, and we've got a bunch of helpers that help you work with JSON pretty easily. Um, we don't recommend, by the way, you trying to use the LSXBE libraries to access notes data, and we'll cover that in a future video. LotusScript began 32-bit for most of its existence. There's now a 64-bit option in version 14 and later, whereas VoltScript is strictly 64-bit only. Uh, LotusScript can be extended via LSXs, which is the same thing as in VSE, but there really aren't that many. It wasn't done. A handful of business partners developed some, but by and large, it hasn't been extended that much. Whereas VoltScript, we've already written multiple official VSEs. We've got 11 of them and counting, and we have 6 VSSs, which are VoltScript libraries written in VoltScript that can be accessed, downloaded, and used, and those are open source. LotusScript hasn't been updated very much over its existence over the last 20, 25 years, whereas VoltScript, it gets continuous updates. We're continuously listening to our customers and evolving the language. Now, here are a few some of the notable language enhancements that we made to VoltScript uh, to make it more of a 21st century language. We've added try catch finally blocks. We've greatly enhanced the get thread info call, which in LotusScript was used to access kind of your environment, your memory, error codes, things like that. We've added in stack tracing and a bunch of other things into get thread info to make it more robust in troubleshooting your environment. Um, we have now added the return keyword to subs and functions, which makes it much easier to just simply return a value back instead of having to reset it to the signature of the sub or function. We've added in nice little iterators like plus plus, plus equal, etc. We've added a debugger that's accessible in Visual Studio Code for debugging your VoltScript code. We've added in short circuit evaluations for things like or and and. And what this allows you to do is have, say, a conditional if statement where you've used an or and. It used to be in LotusScript, if the second value had an error in it, it would never even evaluate it. It would just error out because it would try to pre-evaluate both sides of the condition. This short circuit will only evaluate the second part of the condition if the first part is successful. We also added in the ability to create UUIDs, which is unique character used by multiple OSs for unique identification. And we are right now working on a robust Copilot AI integration so that you can ask the AI built into Visual Studio Code for help with your VoltScript and get help. Now that we kind of understand what VoltScript is, let's get it installed on your Windows system. Let's start by downloading VoltScript and the VS Code extensions for VoltScript. We do that at myhcltechsoftware.com in the downloads area. So if you're a current customer of HCL, you can log in there. Once you get in there, simply go to the HCL VoltMX area, and then you'll notice there's a VoltScript Early Access chiclet. Click on that, and then you want to click on, right now it's Early Access 4, and this will change obviously as we release new versions. Click on Early Access 4. There's going to be two files we want to grab. First off, you notice there's three listed. One is because we have a Mac OS installer. Yes, VoltScript can be coded on Mac natively, but this is a Windows machine, so we're going to start with Windows. So let's download the installer. We do that by clicking the download link, and when the window comes up, we'll choose a directory to store it and save it. And then we also want to grab this. This is the Visual Studio Code extensions, which is going to allow us to better work with VoltScript in Visual Studio Code. So we'll click on that. We're going to download it as well. Once we get those downloaded, let's get them installed. Installing VoltScript is easy. Simply navigate to the directory where you downloaded your install files, double-click the MSI installer, and you're presented with a setup wizard. Click Next, agree to the license agreement. Make sure you add VoltScript to the system path. You're going to need to do that so that VoltScript will run from the command line. And then choose the directory where you want to install it. The default is going to be Program Files, HCL VoltScript. On my machine, I'm going to go ahead and change it to just HCL VoltScript. You could also use Browse to browse to the directory where you'd like to install it. Click the Next and Next. And then the installer will go ahead and extract the install package, get VoltScript set up, and update the registry and your environment variables as needed. Once it's been installed, simply click Close to exit. While we're here, let's go ahead and extract the zip file containing our Visual Studio Code extensions. The reason being is we're going to be using them in a few minutes. This will save us a trip back to this directory window. So we're going to go ahead and extract it to a subdirectory in the current folder. And now we have the extensions we need. And as you can see, we've got a pre-release agreement and we've got the VSIX files, which are the Visual Studio interface extensions files that we're going to be installing into Visual Studio. Now, installing the Visual Studio Code extensions is pretty easy. Go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code like I've got here, and then click on the extensions area, which is the one that looks like a little square and one pushed out. Now, because these files are still in early access mode, these files aren't publicly available in the Visual Studio Marketplace yet. So we have to install them from the local files that we downloaded. To do that, go up here to this little ellipse, click it, and click Install from VSIX. Once you're in here, go ahead and go to your downloads area wherever you downloaded your VoltScript extensions. Let's double click on the expanded uh, library that we did earlier. And then what we're going to do is simply click on both of these files and click Install. Once they're done, you'll get a little prompt indicating that it's finished. As you can see, the little progress throbber going across the top here. Now we've been told that we've completed installing the extensions. And if we scroll down, and I have a lot of extensions installed, but if you scroll down, you can see we've got the VoltScript language support, and we've got VoltScript Build Manager all nice and installed for us. That concludes part one of our VoltScript Venture series, installing VoltScript. Next time, we're going to cover the basics of VoltScript. So stay tuned for part two.